Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspect of running, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. Have you guys heard of Beam? I have been absolutely loving their products lately. Beam is a CBD company that's making waves in the running world by offering products that combine THC-free CBD with other high-quality ingredients. It was founded by two ex-professional athletes with the idea that everyone should have the chance to experience what better feels like. Whether you're sore or stressed, Beam is key for recovery and self-care. Try it for yourself with 15% off using the code FTLR from beamtlc.com. I recommend Beam Dream Powder or the Focus Capsules. Welcome back. I have Sabrina de la Cruz joining me on the podcast today. Sabrina, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Pleasure. I'm really excited to talk about my story and the team story.
For sure. So first question is always a tough one. Who is Sabrina?
Sabrina is a kind, passionate, hard worker, driven woman whose commitment is to, help others and also strive for greatness.
Awesome. I love that.
Thanks.
So we've been in touch for a while, and I've wanted to have you on the podcast. And recently, the Angel City Elite team was announced in Southern California. So I figured, why not jump in and have this conversation? So we'll get to that, I'm sure. But to paint the picture of you as a runner, let's start from your background in running. Do you remember going for your first run?
Yes. I remember going into my first run in high school. I tried out for the track team. Mm-hmm. And I was inspired by a woman. She was Latina, and I felt like she resembled, similar to how I looked. And that really inspired me to run. And she convinced me to join the track team. So I did. And I remember when I first ran, I was terrible. It was near LA. So I went to Sacred Heart of Jesus. And I remember there was it wasn't even that bad. But to me, it was bad. It was 100 meters uphill. And I remembered walking up that hill the first few times. Even my first race, I also remember walking. And then I realized that you have to, work for it. You have to eat healthy, not to quit, because running is all about the mind. So I remember I started working hard and, running, jogging, and then I started to get faster.
And how did that evolve, and what did that evolution look like from those first few miles and races where you were walking in a race to running for a team that is now sponsored by Brooks as a professional athlete?
I guess from starting, I remember not being able, I felt horrible about myself, and I knew there was more to me. So I knew I had to stay committed, and running is especially for cross country and track, it is a team sport if you are running for a team or for a school. And I remember feeling bad because, if I walk, I'm also letting the team down because there's top 5. So I started working hard and building from there. And it's all about, supporting others and people supporting me. And that builded me to today, wanting to support other women and also support other, runners that also want to try to succeed too in this sport.
Very cool. So you said something a little earlier that reminded me of a conversation I had with Rajpal Panu, who is an Indian American runner for Hoka, and he said that being on the start line adds a little more color to the picture, and maybe inspires somebody who looks like him to participate in running and racing and whatnot. And you mentioned that you got your start by seeing somebody who looks like you running and feels like you and has that, the diversity there. So what does it mean to you that a big brand has invested in a team like this?
I think it's very important just because I feel like LA is so diverse. And I feel like it's important because a lot of like different cultures don't realize like that running could provide, scholarships or could provide education. And if, someone who is a high schooler, middle schooler sees, the team and I running and, social media is a huge platform right now. And seeing us on social media could hopefully pave the way for them, and hopefully in the next Olympic marathon trials or, competing at a high level, that they're able to do, what we do. So I think representation is extremely important. And again, seeing us, hopefully that would inspire the next generation, because we hope to like keep evolving. So because at the Olympic marathon trials, there's like 95% white, like 1% black, 1% Asian, and 5% other. So I saw that at the Olympic marathon trials, and that shocked me. And that's something we need to change.
What does it mean for you to be a part of that? It's one thing to see someone similar and say that's great, but it's another to be that person. What does it feel like?
I feel proud. And I know my family is extremely proud as well. I knew that living in this earth, like I want to be able to, make an impact and change. So I'm really passionate about this team and passionate of change. And I just feel so happy. Just last week, I even started to cry. Just because like this just feels like it just feels amazing, especially having a brand like Brooks that's able to support us and our team and our mission and our vision. That's powerful to us.
Very cool. So for context here, the team we're talking about was announced within the last week on social media. Angel City Elite, sponsored by Brooks. This podcast is not sponsored by Brooks. We're just talking about Brooks and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And the feedback that I saw from social was incredible. It was, this is awesome. This is great. The sport needs this. And it felt like something that had been in the works for a while. So I feel like a lot of people really enjoy the behind the scenes look at like how something like this comes to fruition. So where did the idea come from? Where did the team come from? How did this evolve?
Mm-hmm. So I've always had this idea of creating a team. I've always saw the lack of representation since post-collegiate when I would travel to other states. And I actually had an incident where my husband and I were grocery shopping. My husband is darker. And I remember a grocery worker came up to us. We didn't even ask him. He just came up to us and just told us, I know what you're looking for. The tortillas are in that aisle. And we were just shocked.
Oh my God.
And I just realized, like, he said that because he's not educated. He doesn't, realize like what he said could really impact, another person. So that's when like that kind of sparked. But what really sparked,
when was that?
I'm not going to say the state, but when I was going to race at a marathon. Or half marathon.
When was it?
It was about 2 years ago.
Oh wow, so it was recent.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I know. So just like tidbits like that. Like I had a few stereotypes like that, where people would come up to us and just have the like stereotypical, just hurtful comments to us. So when the Olympic marathon trials, the day of, I looked all around me and I saw little resemblance. I saw lack of representation, and I don't want to say like it affected me negatively, but positively. Like I knew I had to do something. I knew that I can't make changes on my own. So then I knew like that night after the race, finished, that, I need to consult with other women who are in the LA area to see if, my ideas, connected with them. So I contacted, I'm just going to mention the girls. First one was Valerie Sanchez. She competed at Cal State LA with me. And her and I have been great friends for a really long time, since like 2012, I believe. So she said yes. Grace Gonzalez is another person. She's just a great educator. She's part Indigenous as well. And I feel like she brings a lot to the table because she educates us about her culture. And that's something that we want to keep pursuing, is to be educated. Another woman is Grace Zamudio. She's the youngest in the team. She's 27, but she's a leader. She's amazing. And she helps us grow as people. And then the last one is great as Andrea Guerrera. She actually was born here, but then she moved to Mexico at a young age. I believe like 3 to 6 months. And she came back from Mexico to here at the age of 6, which is pretty cool. So from there, we collaborated like a few weeks after the Olympic marathon trials. I say like about 2 months later. And then we create our mission statement, our vision statement. Then we contacted sponsors.
What's the mission statement?
So mission statement is to bridge the gap of representation and to inspire and to educate and to empower others. That's pretty much the vision statement.
Awesome.
And then we created the vision statement, and then we contacted sponsors. But Brooks was a sponsorship that we love, just because I don't know if you know Julie.
Yeah.
She's brilliant. She's amazing. I felt
like
she
Olympian herself, right? Or
yeah, she's an Olympian herself. She's so fast. But she's not like only fast, but she's just an amazing woman. She was always like open to conversation. She gave us 100% of her time. And Brooks had the same mission statement as us. So we then collaborated, and they're not sponsors of us, but it took a long process from the spring until now. Because we had to create like our bank, and then, the LLC, and then hopefully nonprofits soon. So it was just a long process. So
while running and training at the same time.
While running and training, yes, exactly.
Very cool. Yeah, I spoke
and working as well.
And working, doing all of the things.
Jobs.
Balance is something I'd love to dig into as well. I had a conversation with Kat Bradley, who recently signed with Brooks as well. And she had rave reviews with in terms of working with Julie compared to anyone else she's ever worked with in the industry. So it's cool to hear that it's a universal experience.
Yeah, definitely.
So talk to me about jumping back to your own running. Why don't you share the distance that you're training for, your favorite distance at the moment?
My favorite one. I think probably easy for me. It's probably the marathon.
Why? What is it about the marathon?
Just because I don't know. I love like doing like really long mile repeats, long tempos, and I feel like you're able to like, I don't know, maybe train with others that are doing long tempos. We could all work together. And I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, again, you could connect with others, as in like a track. It's like, it depends what type of, I don't know, like if you want to do 5K, 10K, we all have different individual, as in like our own thing. Well, I know actually 3 of the girls are going to do track season. 3 of the women. So they're going to race next week at San Diego, but I prefer the marathon.
And so are you all training together at the moment, or is it a little different based on the focus?
I believe 2 to the 3 of the women are currently training together because they're doing track. But everybody's still cautious because of COVID.
Right.
Because that's really important right now. But yeah, I mean, I don't really want to do track. I'm just trying to wait for a marathon.
Nice.
For me personally.
So how has 2021 been for you with the uncertainty around the marathon season?
It's been I mean, I don't want to say tough because I'm sure it's like tough for everyone. But I've been trying to just stay positive and hopeful that, a marathon would happen, and hopefully like COVID could hopefully eventually or potentially like go away eventually. I know, hopefully. But yeah, just like staying hopeful and just staying positive and just like running each day, um, you know, day by day. Because I'm right now just running just because of, for stress relief right now. Because since there's no racing that's like, open right now for me that is a marathon. But hopefully in the fall, hopefully like CIM or Houston is open. So I'm just staying positive.
So how do you keep that hope? How do you keep that positivity with so much uncertainty? I think that's a piece that resonates a lot with amateurs. Not knowing or not having these track meets or special events that are able to be put on in a private location somewhere that people can't attend and whatnot. So how do you manage the uncertainty and stay hopeful?
I think thankfully, like I just don't focus on just running only. And I think that, building this team, working on other projects has actually helped me keep sane. And just, again, just like next year, I'm just like staying hopeful that, a marathon buildup does happen. If it doesn't, I think it's very important that all of us stay safe because health is more important, I feel like. Because running will always be there. But, if someone is like, gets really sick or dies, like that's worse. So that's what I think of it.
Definitely. Yeah. The context helps for sure. It sounded like you were also alluding a little bit to gratitude. Is that something that you intentionally practice?
I do. Every day.
Talk to me about
I
that.
do. So every day, it could be in the morning, the afternoon, or evening. If I do feel like a little anxious or a little depressed, because I do deal with anxiousness every day. The way I deal with it and cope with it is just think about like 5 things that I'm able to do or really resonated with myself. So like for an example, like it could be like, building this women's team, my husband who has been in great support, and other, 3 other things. So I feel like gratitude, even also prayer is also important to me as well. And also family and just having like that small circle, having that small support too, or that, even everyone's support would be amazing. But yeah, even like just thinking the best out of people too. And just staying positive because I feel like everyone has good in them. Just,
Got to bring it out.
Yeah, exactly.
I started asking this question about gratitude. And so this podcast is fascinating because it's fascinating to me personally, and hopefully it is to listeners. But I've spoken to over 100 professional and elite level athletes. And so I've started to pick up on a handful of consistencies from questions that I started asking, not with the idea of like exploring why somebody's answering a certain way, but just because I was curious about the question, talking about balance, talking about gratitude, success. And I start to notice these trends, and the daily gratitude practice seems to be a commonality amongst successful athletes. The other is a focus, I feel like a sharper focus on success and growth, and more of like a growth mindset. And I'm always curious, like, is this a chicken or the egg type scenario? Like, are you successful because of this, or is the fact that you are this way allowing you to be like? I'm not sure what the answer is, but it's just fascinating to reflect on. So diving a little further into that along those lines, let's fast forward 5 to 10 years. What are you really proud of accomplishing?
That's huge. Like you mentioned, for gratitude and etc. And mental health. I feel like I've always struggled with mental health. Like I guess like 5 to 10 years ago, like I had an eating disorder. I was dealing with depression. I was dealing with anxiousness. And honestly, just seeking professional help really helped me. I saw a psychologist a few years back, and I feel like that really helped me. see why the problem was occurring. And I felt like it was more like my mind telling me, pretty much awful things about myself, like, Sabrina, you're not good. You're fat. Just awful things. And that's something I really had to dive in to see, like, why I'm thinking that. And, that there's some things that had to change. Changes, are not going to be overnight. Changing your mindset is not going to be overnight. You have to build from there, build from that. And some things I built it from that was, meditation, was self-care. Like maybe on a Saturday or Sunday, go take an Epsom bath, go do my nails, go get a facial, like have a girl's day on my own and being okay with being by myself. So those are some things like I really had to work on with myself and really like learn to love myself. And I feel like today, like I'm confident. I also dealt with social anxiety in the past. And I feel like building this team, like, doing Zoom calls with other people, Zoom calls with new people, like doing the Zoom call with you. Like I wouldn't have been able to do that a few years back because I dealt with like anxiousness. I would be shaking right now. And I also had like a really bad stutter problem. And that's something, again, I had to overcome and work on, and not, be too hard on myself. So.
Yeah, I think all of that is awesome and great job on that progress. And I think that the most important piece is sharing it and talking about it. And so that other people, like we talked about in the beginning, other people see themselves in you, no matter their background or ethnicity or, whatnot. Alexi Pappas is doing amazing things for the sport with her book Bravey and how she talks about mental health being like a scratch on your brain, and the fact that you or me or somebody might need to work on their mental health. It's just the same thing as like having a bone bruise or having an ankle sprain. You go to a doctor and you get it taken care of. And like when people sprain their ankle, they don't, bash themselves for being weak, or they don't talk down to themselves. Actually, I have. I have such fickle ankles. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So maybe that's a bad example, but you get. I think the point is made there. It's the kind of thing that like I saw a psychologist when I was in middle school, and I took antidepressants when I was in middle school, and it like I'm here today because of that. And nobody was talking about it then, and I was just like a little angry, 10-year-old taking these pills that were fixing my brain and making the chemical reactions that should be occurring that weren't occurring. And so fast forward to 2021, and we have people like everyone is talking about it. Like I've done 150 podcast episodes, and we probably talked about mental health and depression and anxiety on at least half of them. And these are, professional athletes who, upon, if you were to see them, on NBC, on the Olympic channel or whatever, you think, oh, these people are perfect. But it's such a reminder that like, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, we all are in this together, and we all are struggling in our own ways. I did a podcast with Tanzi, a runner from Boulder recently, and we talked about like hard things just make us better, and these experiences that we all go through are not unique, but it feels isolating and it feels unique. But I think that's the beauty of social media and podcasting and articles and like this focus on women's running and telling the stories of athletes like yourself and other athletes that like somebody's going to listen to this hopefully and maybe take action and maybe do something for themselves that you did for yourself 5 years ago, and now you're in a better place. So thank you for being so open about sharing that part of your story as well.
Yeah, you're very welcome. That's something like I really want to like, be open and hopefully share to other people, um, in person or continue to do podcasts with with you or with others.
For sure.
It's really important.
Yeah, I think that we're at a place so I get to see it from the brand side working for Inside Tracker, and I've seen it evolving over the last few years that like results aren't everything anymore, and they haven't been for the last 5+ years. It's so much more about who are you, what's your story, and why should people care about it. That like that's why Brooks signed with you guys. It's not because you're super fast. I mean, that's that's a component, but it's this story that you're telling and bringing other people along for the ride, and hopefully making everyone better as a result. Like 10 years ago, that wouldn't have happened. So it's super cool to see the evolution in the industry towards the model of bring everyone along for the ride and share the story.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something we want to like tackle. Hopefully like this team doesn't stop with us. We want it to, continue generation to generation, even after, I die, etc. Just, hopefully this will continue. So
for sure. And hopefully
excited for the future.
First of many. One of the other questions I had that was referenced or alluded to is the strength of the women's running community versus the men's running community. I had a conversation. So we hosted a panel recently, and a colleague of mine who doesn't have a background in the endurance community was like, so we did it for International Women's Month and had a half dozen women on the panel, and she was like, "Can we do this for men? Is there the same like men's community in running?" And I was like, "Honestly, no. Like it's so much stronger on the women's side." And I talked with Aaron Strout about this right before the Olympic marathon trials, and like the buzz of the women's race versus the men's race. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, why do you think that the women's running community is so strong?
I don't know. I guess like I'm thinking maybe women maybe, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, maybe are just more open in sharing their stories. Are I guess just like evolving even in running, right? Like, you see, like at the Olympic trials, like it's just, not the Olympic trials, but like, you just see like them evolving like at the New York City Marathon. So I don't know. I just maybe like sharing the stories. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I think that the sharing of the story is definitely important. The conversation I had with Aaron was basically like, I can think of two guys who shared their story in the pursuit of the Olympic trials standard. It was Peter Bromka and Tommy Ribs Pusey. And like, I can't think of anybody else. Meanwhile, you have like hundreds of women who are open about sharing their pursuit of the OTQ. So I don't know. I agree with you on that. Thanks again to Beam for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. I take their Dream Powder most nights before bed. Dream contains magnesium, a small amount of melatonin, and broad spectrum nano CBD, and always leads to a refreshing night's sleep. I'm also a big fan of their focus capsules for during the day. Containing many of the nutrients that I know my body needs, such as ashwagandha, CoQ10, as well as CBD, Focus helps you do exactly that. Visit beamtlc.com and use the code FTLR for 15% off, and let me know what you think. And now, back to our conversation. Jumping back to one of those questions that I keep asking that I'm curious your take on. What does success mean to you?
Success means to me. Good question. I guess success means to like overcome your fear, overcome boundaries that you think that you wouldn't have done before. And even if it's like something like little, as in like doing a public speaking, say like someone is dealing with anxiety, and just them like just them overcoming it and just speaking, even though they're like stuttering or the words are like a little rambling, like I feel like that's that's success. It's just doing something little as possible day by day, and I feel like you're able to succeed as a person.
I love that. And the reason I love it is I asked you this question. You're a professional runner, and you didn't say anything related to running. and that's the so I first asked this to Vanessa Fraser, an athlete on the Bowerman Track Club, and she also didn't give me a tangible answer. And actually, I asked her, fast forward 5 to 10 years, what are you proud of? And she gave me a completely qualitative answer and didn't say anything like, oh, making the Olympic team or blah, blah, blah. And so at that time, I was like, that's interesting. She's a professional athlete for Nike, and all she cares about is getting better. And I was like,
Yes.
wonder if there's a commonality there. And so your answer and, dozens of other answers are perfectly in line with that sort of growth mentality versus I'm so set on a specific goal and then what? And again, I think it's like really important for amateurs to hear that a runner at your level isn't saying, oh, I want to run a 2X in the marathon. I want to run a 30 something in the 10K. But it's more about, I want to get better and I want to do things that used to scare me and do podcasts and speaking engagements and talking to people and doing all these things that like you're growing and it's a sign of growth versus top of the podium. Like that's fleeting. Who really cares in the long run?
Yeah, I feel like running will always be there, and running is important to me. But I feel like if your mental health is not there and you're stressing, I feel like running, you're not going to be able to succeed because you're dealing with all these barriers in your life. So if I'm happy, if I'm succeeding in my personal life, I know for a fact that running is just I'm going to be blazing. I want to probably PR that year. Which happened to me in 2017. I was happy. I had no stress. I mentally was strong. And that year, I PR'd, I qualified to the trials. So I think mental health is extremely important. And I'm glad that you're talking about that.
For sure. Mm-hmm. So how do you make it a priority? What are the tangible things that you do to make sure that you continue to stay happy and healthy?
For sure is continuing to see my psychologist. I see her at least once a month. It's important just to talk about, things that I'm struggling with, and she could put it into a perspective to me instead of just like rambling to my friends and giving that like negative energy. I'd rather, do that to my psychologist. Because again, I want to give 100% of my positivity and my energy to my friends and family. So that's one way. Another way is doing a lot of breathing techniques. That was taught by my psychologist, and having 100% support by my husband. He's been like the ocean. He's been like my rock in these last few years. So he has really helped me build like my strong mentality habits. If I ever like have like a negative thought, and I do state that to him, like, Sabrina, let's try again. So then he would tell me, Sabrina, let's try another way, say it this way. And just like for an example, I guess I could tell you like a running related. So I guess when I was training for a marathon a few years back, like a year ago or two, no, I'm sorry, like a year ago, I got injured before the trials. And I was pretty hard to myself. I'm like, I'm not going to finish the trials. I'm injured. I'm slow. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. And he made me realize like those words are going to impact my mind while I'm racing. Don't focus on those words or those comments about yourself. Say, I'm going to finish instead of saying, I'm not going to finish. I'm going to do this instead of saying, I can't do this. So even like not using can't in my repertoire.
Power of positivity, yeah.
Yes, and your words are so strong. If you say it out loud, it might happen. So it's better just not to say it.
I read a book. I used to spend 3 or 4 days a week in the sauna, and I would just like read or meditate or like practice gratitude, like think of 10 things and whatnot, like you were saying with 3. And one of the books that I read was, I believe it was called Brain Game. And it was this like tiny little book that was perfect for the sauna because it gets really hot and most books, like the pages fall out, but this book didn't. And it was, anyway, the book persevered. And one of the takeaways from the book was, your brain can only focus on one thing at a time. So if you're thinking negative thoughts, that's where you're going to go. And if you're thinking positive thoughts, that's where you're going to go. And just let it be what you want it to be, and that's where you'll go. And it's hard when you're in the moment and it's like, oh, this is tough, this is brutal, blah blah blah. But it's a practice, and the more we do these things, the brain is a muscle just like anything else, you could say. And the more we do it, the more we practice this positivity in racing and life and whatnot. I think you can follow it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with you with that.
So do you do any other sort of like mental training, or is it mostly working with a psychologist and practicing gratitude, or are there other tactics that you employ as well?
I guess personally, not really watching like bad things on the internet, just watching things that are happy, either if it's like a cartoon or if it's something that's going to inspire me. I watch a lot of like inspirational movies. So that's going to like also impact me and inspire me. I also do like a lot of prayer work with my family, especially with my mom. And also, honestly, just to love on others, just seeing the positivity in others. Cause like, like it's so easy to compare nowadays on social media,
right?
Especially like if you're on Strava or you're on social media and you're like comparing, like, okay, this person's on vacation and this person's doing that, and just being negative towards that. Instead, use that and say like, oh, like I'm happy for them, great for them. Or, on Strava, like, wow, that person ran this, like that's unbelievable, and actually be happy for them instead of just being like, oh, I wish I was able to do that. I wish I was able to race, and just comparing yourself and just being down on yourself. I think that's very important. It's just being happy for other people's successes.
I think that's huge. I know it's huge. I don't think it's huge. I have a friend who has been on this podcast, Brad, and he's known on social media as Brad the Kudos Bot. And he just gives so many kudos, and he loves positivity, and he loves the running community and contributing to the running community. And it's so wholesome and pure. It's just like he has no like ulterior motive. He has no, like, he just wants to be positive and bring happiness and encouragement to other people. And then the joy he gets from seeing other people fuels him. And so it's this like feedback loop that's endless and perfect, because there's so much out there that we can all draw inspiration and encouragement from. And so I think it's hard though, because like, let's say you get injured, or let's say your running is not going quite as well. You can put that energy into supporting other people. So I was injured at the beginning of 2020, and I didn't run from the end of January through the beginning of March, which spanned the Olympic trials. And I had planned to go to the Olympic trials in, I don't know, October, November, again for work. I wasn't racing. And I was really nervous about being at a race that at a time when I couldn't even run. And I put so much energy into like the events that we planned there, that like that felt like my race. And then watching everyone do their thing and giving them the support for their race, and podcasting and having the post-race party and all this stuff. It was the exact same thing. It was like, I'm just giving kudos and getting so much out of it. And it didn't even cross my mind that I wasn't running, which I thought was wild. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And that actually happened to me too. Like, when I did race, when I had the opportunity to race, like even like, running with other individuals, and like, just like, praising them. You're doing amazing. You're racing. Great. Keep it up. And that actually impacted my mindset. Like that gave me kudos to keep, enjoying the run. Like praising them, but also praising myself in the same time. That's something I used to do. And I also did extremely well in races when I did that. Is
That's
praising
awesome.
others and like that energy coming back to me as well.
What would Sabrina of today say to Sabrina of 5 years ago?
I would say, be okay with failure. Be okay with not be okay with failure, and you are able to accomplish anything that you do if you believe in yourself. And most importantly, continue on loving yourself and loving people around you. And that's pretty much what I would say, because I feel like I struggled a lot back then.
Talk to me
Mental
more.
health.
Yeah, talk to me more about the struggle, or why is be okay with failure something you would have said?
Because I was hard on myself whenever I would fail. And when I would fail, I remember I would have like a pity tantrum and crying to my husband and being hard on myself for days. Like if it was like even a bad race, I would cry for a week and just being down on myself. And even in like workouts, to just being down on myself. And then I realized like, there's more to life and to running. Like if you had a bad workout, you have a bad workout. So I think I was just pretty hard on myself, even with working, with not, fulfilling or not, parents not being happy with me sometimes, which, you're, going to get that at times. So just being down on myself, quick to judge on myself instead of, just, being okay and just trying to work on myself and, improving. I was just pretty hard on myself. So that's something I wish like I would have known before.
Yeah, I think it's encouraging that you can go from a place like that to a place like where you're at today. Like you're beaming with happiness talking about this growth. And that's really cool to see.
Oh, thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, it's been a long-term work, but I feel like mentally, like I'm right now at the right place.
Cool.
Thankfully.
What are the goals for the next couple of years?
My goals for sure is to qualify to Olympic marathon trials, to PR in my marathon. In a marathon. As for work, to take an exam called behavior analyst to get certified in that. So that's my goal, as in like work. And my next goal is also just to like work, improve and just to educate myself and how to to evolve this team.
Very cool. Let's talk about balance. You got a lot that you're juggling at the moment, and always it seems like running full time, working full time, having a partner. How do you balance all of that?
Yeah.
Or do you?
So I do balance it. So pretty much like in the mornings, if I have to do like any team things or other projects, like it'll be early in the morning, and then I'll have work. And then during my lunch break, thankfully, not thankfully, but right now, like I'm just working virtually at home. So I could just, go quickly on my laptop really quick and then just, do like emails real quick for the team or study for my exam. Or if I'm on the road, if I want to go do my run, I'll listen to a podcast that's educational to myself. So that's how I'm able to get some educational information in, or and also like stress reliever running. Again, running is a great tool for me right now, just because I feel like, okay, that's away from work, that's away from projects. Running is for me. I could do that on my own. And also, during the weekends, I try to like think, like today, I had my free time to do a podcast with you. I'm like, okay, let's do it today, because during the week I probably won't have time. So So that's how I try to, prioritize myself, is doing fun activities, mainly probably during the weekend, and then just doing a lot of like work, since I work full time during the week. And if I have time in the mornings, lunch break, or evenings, that's when I get in other work.
Cool.
Like fun projects.
What are some of the podcasts you like to listen to for entertainment?
Actually, I listen to Behavioral Bitches.
What's that?
So Behavioral Bitches is it's a podcast.
It's the best name, best podcast name I've ever heard.
So it's just fun stories where other people go on and they just talk with the two women who is the one that started Study Notes ABA. They make it fun for people who are future behavior analysts. They put terminologies in there, and then psychologists go in there, behavior analysts go in there, like different workforces go in there, and then they just make it easy for me to understand. So I feel like I'm studying and I'm learning. So I feel like that's a fun thing that I do on my own, as in like trying to get more studying as for fun, and then doing my own studying when I get home.
Nice. And so what's the goal career wise? Talk to us about what are you studying for?
So I got my master's in psychology with an emphasis in ABA. So I primarily work with kiddos with autism. And so my goal is to take my exam, which is behavior analyst, and it's pretty much working with children with social skills, with communication skills, with behaviors, and also mentoring parents and providing them applied behavior analysis strategies so they could help their child, and also like helping them like make life easier, because it's hard. And I understand with family. I do understand family, because I also have a younger brother with autism. He's 10. And he's pretty much the reason why I got into this field. And I feel like I would have been lost without him, because after college, I did not know what to do. For a year, I didn't have a job. And ABA services would come to my home, and they would work with my younger brother. And they would play with him. And they would do target plans with him. And I was like, oh, this is a fun job. So then I applied to the job, and ever since I love it, and I got my master's and etc. So that's my goal, is that.
Very cool. My sister is a BCBA working with kids with autism as well. Cool. So it's a small world.
That's awesome.
On the other coast, but yeah, she loves it as well. And
definitely a rewarding job.
Yes, she says how outrageously difficult it can be sometimes, but when breakthroughs happen, as in any place, it's very rewarding, I'm sure. Very cool. Switching gears a little bit, what do you wish people knew about you?
I'm trying to think. Let's see.
Hidden talent, maybe. Do you play piano?
I do not play any instruments. I wish I played an instrument. That would be so amazing. I don't know. I guess I used to play other sports when I was younger. I don't know I used to play basketball and volleyball. I don't think I was great at them. I don't know. I guess I don't feel like I have any hidden talents, but like, I guess to know more about me, I feel like I'm very like lovable and very kind. I think I'm too kind, and sometimes I have to be, I guess, I don't know, strong is the word to use. I guess more like, what's the term I should use? I guess fighter. I don't know, like, but I feel like I'm not that person. Like, I'm not like, I guess, like intimidating. Like, I'm just too kind.
You can work on that with your finishing kick.
Yeah, I guess.
Get like a mean face.
Yeah, I guess like, yeah. Actually, I do know how to do a mean face, but like that vibe to people, I can't be mean to people.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not me.
I have a friend, Dana Giordano, who's on the BAA. high performance team, and her whole shtick is run ugly, and that's at the end of races. She's got this like fire in her face.
Oh, that's funny.
So maybe give it a go.
Yeah, I think running has helped me, I guess, to have like that grind, like to have like that, hopefully be like a little bit intimidating to people when I'm at the start line.
Nice. Well, you can continue to work on that, and we'll see hopefully at CIM or somewhere awesome later this year. Thanks so much for taking some time to chat today. For those that want to follow first you, where can we follow you? And then where can we follow the team?
So you can follow me on Sabrina L DLC. Al is my middle name. That's what it's like, Lopez Dela Cruz. And then
you recently
for Angel City,
changed your handle though, right?
I did. It was the Sabrina Lopez. Now it's Sabrina L DLC.
Got it.
Because I couldn't change it to Dela Cruz. I guess the name was too long. So
got it.
And then someone had that Instagram handle. Then Angel City Elites, Angel City under dash elite. And then you can find more information there. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, and hope to see you out at a race sometime soon or sometime this year.
Yeah, definitely. And hope to see you in person.
Yes, please.
Too, when things are safe.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next week on For the Long Run. And in the meantime, happy trails. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too.